Maps that will change the way you see the world. This map shows GPS tracking of multiple wolf packs around a national park. It really shows how often wolves just avoid each other's territories. This map shows 20 different eagles that were tracked over a 1-year period. Notice how they constantly avoid water. This is a map of occupied bald eagle nests in Wisconsin in 1974 and 2019. This is how big Japan is compared to the east coast of the United States of America. 50% of all Canadians live south of that red line. These two areas of Africa have roughly the same amount of people. Each one of these sections contains 10% of the world population. These maps show the passenger railway networks as of 2020 in each of these countries. This is the longest possible way to travel by train in the entire world. Maps that will change how you see the world. That young fox actually walked from Norway to Canada in a 4-month period in 2018. This is the map. This is how big Australia is compared to North America. This is what a map centered on Argentina looks like. These highlighted countries are the only countries that were mentioned in the Bible. These highlighted countries are the only places in the world that penguins are found naturally. This is a 3D topographic map of Europe. This was the map for a potential Europe-USA superhighway that was proposed by the former president of Russian Railways. This is what the surface of Mars would look like if 71% of its surface area was covered by water, just like Earth. Maps that will change the way you see the world. If Did Not Vote was counted as a candidate in the 2020 US presidential election, it would have won with 278 electoral votes. Americans were asked to point where Iran is. All the green dots are the people who got it right, and the orange dots are the rest of the guesses. Iowa has 99 counties, and it could have been a clean 100 if this one up here just followed suit with the rest of them next to it. This is what the world could look like about 250 million years from now if no international borders changed. This was the Roman Empire, and this was the Mongol Empire at their biggest sizes ever. The red highlighted places are the only places in the world where you don't need a permit to buy a gun. Basically just most states in the United States and Yemen. Maps that will change the way you see the world. This is a map of all recorded shipwrecks during World War II. The United States had more murders in 2017 than all of these countries in red combined. This was the perspective of the entire world from an ancient Greek historian from the 5th century BC. The British Empire at its territorial peak during the 1920s had almost the same surface area as the moon. Their territory covered almost 25% of the Earth's entire surface. This map is believed to be the longest uninterrupted walk in the world, going from Cape Town, South Africa to Magadan, Russia, almost 14,000 miles long. This is an East German map from 1988 of West Berlin, except they did not show West Berlin on the map. Maps that will change the way you see the world. This map shows what year women got the right to vote in every country around the world. The most recent was Saudi Arabia in 2011. This map shows where all the 2 million public saunas are in Finland. Finland only has a population of about 5.5 million people. 50% of everyone in the United Kingdom lives in this circle. The dark shades on this map are the true sizes of every country without the distortion of the regular world map that we're all used to. This shows if you lay the Burj Khalifa, which is the tallest building in the world, flat on the ground, it is longer than the entire country of the Vatican City. Maps that will change the way you see the world. More than 2,000 Americans were asked to locate Ukraine on a blank map, and this was the result. This is a map of the more than 4 million public roads and highways that are in the United States. These are the only countries in the world that do not use the metric system. This is what light pollution looks like in the United States. I had no idea the East Coast was that bright. These are the only countries in the world with a population of less than 100 million people. These are all of the out-of-service railways in the United States. The pink areas are the only areas in the world that you can find flamingos in nature. Maps that will change the way you see the world. That red area on the map has the same population as the entire blue area combined. The orange areas are the only places in the world where legally married gay couples could buy a rifle to protect their legally owned marijuana plants. The blue areas are the territory that Nazi Germany still held at surrender in May of 1945. This is a map of all the roads in Canada. This is a map of every recorded sunken Japanese ship in World War II. These are all the underwater cables that sustain the internet. This guy made a world map with his Lego Star Wars army in only 11 hours. Maps that will change the way you see the world. The red areas have a higher combined population than all of the gray areas. Each of these blue states have a smaller population than Los Angeles County. This is what tree cover looks like visualized across the United States. These are what the population spikes in the United States look like. This is the amount of the world that is covered by Google Street View. These are all the railway networks that exist around the globe. This was roughly the size of the Mongolian Empire at the height of its existence in 1279 AD. Maps that will change the way you see the world. About 80% of Americans live to the east of this line. The longest border that France shares with any other country is actually Brazil. Each of these highlighted countries have a smaller population than Los Angeles County. The red and orange areas have about the same population. This is what the Earth looks like centered around New Zealand. This is a map of the borders between France and Belgium, and that is a French nuclear plant. This is one prediction of what Africa could look like 10 million years from now. This is a map of Africa's borders if it was divided by languages and ethnicities. This is a map of the US wealth inequality gap visualized as physical land. The 1% would own almost the entire West Coast, and 40% would own this tiny little space in Texas. Maps that will change the way you see the world. This is a flight map that shows over 140 private jets that left Los Angeles within 5 hours after the end of this year's Super Bowl. This picture shows how big Africa actually is compared to other countries. The United States, China, Japan right here, India, and Eastern Europe all included. This map shows how big Alaska is compared to the lower 48. Meanwhile, this is what Alaska would look like in Africa. Anywhere where you see dark green on this map of Alaska is a place where there is less than 1 person per square mile. This is a really awesome map of the elevation across the United States. This map shows where the most photographed places are in the world. This is a fun retro pixel map of the United States of America with some iconic landmarks on it. Maps that will change the way you see the world. This is the largest volcano in our solar system compared to the state of Arizona. These are the United States counties where at least one Chinatown has existed at some point in time. Green means currently and red means formerly. This shows the wolf distribution across Italy between 1900 and 2020. It dipped down in 1973 but has come back strong ever since. This shows the percentage of how much each state contributes to the United States GDP. These are the areas where the highest rates of malaria exist. This is a map of the sound levels across the United States. Every red dot across this map is a place named Victoria. Maps that will change the way you see the world. The blue states have lower crime than 30 years ago, and the red states have higher crime than 30 years ago. This is a modern take on one of the first maps of the world. This shows where you have the right to change legal gender in Europe. Dark blue is where you can change your gender with no surgery. You also can in the light blue, but surgery is required. Anywhere yellow is where you cannot. Blue countries have the longest life expectancy, and red countries have the shortest life expectancy. This shows the total average lightning density in the United States between 2015 and 2019. This is a map of still inhabited cities that are older than the United States inside of the United States. This is a very cool representation of where all the airports, seaports, and cities are around the world. Maps that will change the way you see the world. Only 6% of the Chinese population lives on the west side of China. There are more people living inside this circle than outside of it. Interstates in the US are in numerical order. The routes with even numbers run east and west, while the odd numbers run north and south. This is what the greater Tokyo area looks like in comparison in size to the greater London area. This is the Mississippi River, including all of the rivers and streams that water flows from. The easternmost point of Brazil is actually closer to Africa than the westernmost point of Brazil. Also, Brazil's northernmost part is closer to every country in the Americas than it is to the southernmost part of Brazil. This would be the world map if it was centered on Antarctica. Maps that will change the way you see the world. The entirety of continental South America is east of Michigan. Only 2% of the Australian population lives within the yellow area. This is a map of what Pangaea would look like with current international borders. The countries in blue drive on the left side of the road, and the countries in red drive on the right side. This map shows how many metal bands there are per million people throughout Europe in 2016. The deforestation differences between Belize and Guatemala create a straight line down their border visible from space. This shows the paid maternity leave for new mothers all around the world. When you turn the Americas on its side, it looks like a duck. Maps that will change the way you see the world. Melbourne, Australia is closer to Antarctica than to Darwin. Ireland extends further north than Northern Ireland. Virginia also extends further west than West Virginia. These are the locations of every city founded by the Roman Empire. Every state in blue has a lower GDP than the San Francisco Bay Area. This is a population density spike chart of the entire world. This is a map of the entire internet in 1969. This map shows which countries are across the ocean from each other. I would pause and read this one. And maps that will change the way you see the world. More people live in Bangladesh than in Russia. Japan is further north, south, east, and west than Korea. The countries in red were not invited to the Queen's funeral. This is the longest straight line that you can walk without hitting the ocean. These are the most oddly named towns in each US state. More than 90% of the world's tornadoes happen in the United States. The red areas shown here contain half of the entire Australian population. This is what the Mediterranean Sea would look like if it was in the United States. This shows how big Indonesia actually is compared to the United States. Maps that will change the way you see the world. A shark fitted with a GPS tracker drew a picture of a shark in the Atlantic. The red areas show where lions have existed in history, and the blue area is where lions exist today. Anything in the red section is closer to Texas than the opposite sides of Texas are to each other. This shows the median age by continent. Europe has the highest with 42 and Africa has the lowest with 19. The topography map of Sri Lanka looks like an avocado. Any county with a color in it is in the top 50 most drunk counties in the United States. This map shows the legal status of homosexuality in the world in 2022. Maps that will change the way you see the world. This is a map of beavers in Europe over 100 years ago, and this map shows beavers in Europe today. It is perfectly legal for a landlord in any of these red states to refuse to rent to someone for being gay or transgender. The top map shows the most popular internet browsers in 2012, and the bottom map shows the most popular browsers now. Without touching a single piece of land, it is possible to sail from India to the USA in a completely straight line. This is a worldwide breakdown of all of the known billionaires across the world. Maps that will change the way you see the world. This is a map of discovered meth labs. This is the number of ski resorts by state. This is a light pollution map of Africa and the Arabian Peninsula. Most of the Houston city center is just parking lots. In 8 different US states, atheists are prohibited from holding public office. These are the usual times for eating dinner in different areas of Europe. A cyclist recreated Nirvana's Nevermind album cover. Maps that will change the way you see the world. This is what Pluto would look like if you placed it next to Australia. This is the number of Switzerlands that fit inside of Brazil. This is the most famous brand from every state in the US. This is a map of the obesity in North America. This is the percentage of young adults in Europe who are still living with their parents. These are all the air traffic control zones in the United States. The shape of Australia looks like a dog's head and a cat's head combined. Maps that'll change the way you see the world. You can fit the entire country of Poland inside of Texas. None of the countries that bordered Poland before 1990 exist today. This is the farthest place on Earth from any ocean. 7% of Bermuda's entire landmass is golf courses. This map shows the concentration of castles in Europe. This is the North American population density in 2020. This is a map of every county in the contiguous United States carved from over 3,000 wooden blocks. Maps that will change the way you see the world. This map shows where Americans are the most happy and the least happy. You can see the happiest states in yellow and the least happy states are in blue. This map shows the most popular sports in each country in the world. This map shows the most popular languages to learn by country on Duolingo. This map answers if each US state has toes on their flag. This map shows where cheek kissing is a common way of greeting people. The countries in red on this map have an AK-47 on their flag. This map shows the most common means of transportation to work by county. Green means driving alone. Yellow is public transportation. Blue is other, and red is walked. Maps that will change the way you see the world. This map shows reported UFO sightings, and 96% of them all come from the United States. Any country in gray is one of the 22 countries that Britain has never invaded. This is how big Brazil is compared to North America. This is how big Indonesia is compared to North America. This map shows the use in the United States of the words you guys versus y'all. This map shows Egypt's population density. These potential high-speed rail routes would connect over 50% of the entire United States and Canada populations. This map shows the percentage of the United States population that is not religious by state. Maps that will change the way you see the world. This map shows where you can legally marry your cousin in the United States. The dark blue states are where it is completely legal to marry your first cousin. Dark red states are where it is a criminal offense. These pink states are where it's banned with exceptions, whatever that means. This is a map of all the countries that use the month, day, year format. This is what the Great Pacific Garbage Patch would look like if it was layered over the United States. The red dots in this map represent the over 100 million sharks that are killed every year by humans. The little green dots represent the 7 humans that get killed by sharks every year. These 2 dots show the islands of Mare and Futuna. These 2 islands are the easternmost and westernmost parts of France. This map visualizes the population density of Africa. This map shows every US state shown as a country with a similar GDP. Maps that will change the way you see the world. There is a lake in Finland that looks like Finland. This is the path of someone who recently rode their bike 11,877 miles across Europe. This is what different pedestrian signs look like across Europe. This is what forests looked like in Germany in 50 AD, and this is them today. This shows where the death penalty still exists today. Blue is illegal. Yellow is illegal with exceptions. Orange is legal but not used, and red is legal. This shows the 85 countries and territories that have US military bases. These are all the primary languages that are used in China. Maps that will change the way you see the world. Reno, Nevada is actually farther west than Los Angeles. Spokane, Washington is also farther west than San Diego, which is on the coast. Chile sits on the west coast of Brazil and is farther east than New York City. Toronto, Canada is farther south than Minneapolis. Moscow is farther east than Jerusalem. Tijuana, Mexico is actually closer to Alaska than it is to Cancun, Mexico. There is a part of Michigan that is farther south than the north parts of California, Nevada, and Utah. There is also a part of Michigan that is farther north than Seattle. Maps that will change the way you see the world. No hurricane in history has ever crossed the equator. This map shows which search term is more popular by state. Jesus Christ is more popular in the blue states, while the Beatles are more popular in the red states. This is what Pluto would look like if you were able to place it next to Brazil. This map shows the legality of owning a kangaroo in the United States. Green states are legal, orange is legal with a permit, and red is completely illegal. This is what North America looked like 92 million years ago. This shows whether garbage or trash is a more common use of the word in each area of the US. The popularity of boobs versus butts. Butts are in red, boobs are in blue. These countries have targeted bans on the TikTok app. Light green means temporary ban, dark green is a ban on government devices, and yellow means full ban. With the USA potentially going full ban, make sure you're following me on Instagram and YouTube so you don't lose my videos. Maps that will change the way you see the world. Egypt, which is in yellow, is smaller than the United States, Russia, and China combined. More people live inside this circle than out of it. This map shows all the railway lines that exist in Antarctica. This map shows the number of texting and driving fatalities in the 1960s. This map shows what the United States would look like if only Democrats voted. And this map shows what the United States would look like if only Republicans voted. Here is a map of the Earth if there was no land. The yellow states highlighted above show the top 12 US states that you can live in. This map shows the Roman Empire air bases in the 2nd century AD. This is a map of Tesla charging stations across Europe 100 years ago. This map shows the coldest season of the year in North America. Green means spring, red means summer, gray means fall, and blue means winter. Yes, that last video you just watched was an April Fool's Day maps video. Part 43 is also going to be an April Fool's Day video, so I'll tell you about that one before it comes up. If you've had pain in your body like me, I'd like to tell you about Movement Vault, which is the sponsor for today's video. I'm in the middle of a stretch every day for 365 days challenge, and this is the program that you want to relieve your pain and improve your flexibility. It's always been back pain for me. I used to run all the time without stretching because I hated to do it, but this has made me love stretching. Movement Instant Vault is a video vault full of specialized stretching and mobility video classes from the best doctors of physical therapy with over 1,500 classes to choose from. Classes are for everybody at all levels, and if you have a specific area you want to work on, you just follow that specific program and you'll increase your flexibility just for that area. Make sure to use the link in my description to support me and for a free trial. I normally don't do brand deals all the time, but I felt this one was valuable to you. Maps that will change the way you see the world. 270 million cluster bombs were dropped on Laos during the American Secret War. 80 million did not detonate and are still scattered nationwide. More than half of all confirmed cluster casualties in history happened here. This map shows how animals will migrate if global temperatures continue to rise. Pink is mammals, blue is birds, and yellow is amphibians. The Appalachian Mountains are a key undeveloped pathway for animals to travel. You can see up here how quiet New York is for migration patterns. In South America, you can see many species leaving the Amazon rainforest. This is the overdose death rate per 100,000 people in the United States over the last couple of decades. Gray areas are 0, while the greenest are up to 28 or more. This map visualizes the data from the 2016 presidential election. It shows a clear difference between the surface area of US counties and their associated populations. Maps that will change the way you see the world. This is the average life expectancy in the US by county. The darkest red is the youngest at 66 years old, and the darkest blue is the oldest at 86 years old. Every dot on this map of San Francisco is a location of where feces was reported in the last decade. The countries in red have a moon on their flag, and the countries in blue have a flag on the moon. This shows the US and Canada at the same latitudes if you layered it over Europe. This map shows whether caramel or caramel is more commonly said in an area. There is a Domino's pizza in every single country that is highlighted in red on this map. This is the most popular word in each US state. And these were the weirdest foods from each US state. I would pause and read this one. Maps that will change the way you see the world. 40% of Greece's entire population lives in this red area. This is what the average color of jeans looks like in every US state. This is what China's high-speed railway looked like in 2008, and this is it only 12 years later. This is what Antarctica would look like without ice. This is what the world would look like if the lands and the oceans were inverted. This map shows the location of every single battle ever recorded on Wikipedia over the last 4,500 years. Every little white dot on this map is a lighthouse showing an outline of the world of lighthouses. This map shows the legality of prostitution in the United States. Green means illegal. Light purple is legal with no active brothels. And purple means fully legal. This shows the amount of murders in the USA by county. 2% of American counties account for 51% of all murders. 54% of counties had no murders at all. This shows the number of prisoners per 100,000 people in every single country. This is a good one to pause and read. Maps that will change the way you see the world. These are all the countries around the world where it is illegal to spank your children. The countries in black need to enter the United States with a visa, while the countries in blue do not. This map shows the use of dang in the United States, with red being higher use and blue being lower use. This map shows how many lives cats have across Europe. This map gives a better representation of the United States and all of its territories. These are the locations of where the 15 largest lakes are in the world. This shows rivers in Africa in the most awesome way I've ever seen. This one shows Australia's rivers and streams. There are over 1.3 million of them. The entirety of continental South America lies east of Michigan. The countries in red have never been visited by a sitting US president. This shows the 1984 presidential election in the US, where Ronald Reagan had 97% of the electoral vote for his second term in office. The US counties in red above are the counties where you do not pump your own gas. I lived in Oregon as a teenager for a couple years, and it was a bizarre experience for the first time having someone else pump your own gas. Maps that will change the way you see the world. This top map shows all the unfriendly countries according to Russia. And this blue map shows the countries where you can drink tap water safely. This shows how many times more likely a black individual would be imprisoned over a white individual in the United States. This map shows the size comparison to Houston and Cairo, which has 3 times the population. This is what a road trip through every Springfield, USA would look like. This shows the eye color of every governor in each US state. This is what giraffe patterns look like in different areas around Africa. The areas in red show where 99% of the population of Canada live. The areas in red here show where 95% of the Canadian population lives. And the red areas here show where 75% of the Canadian population lives. This shows the hottest temperature ever recorded in every single US state. This shows the coldest temperature ever recorded in every single US state. Respect to Alaska, because -80? Nope. Nope. Maps that will change the way you see the world. This man traveled over 4,000 miles to create a GPS drawing to propose to his girlfriend. The red areas on this map of Europe have a lower population than the prisons in the United States. This is what the 8,000 satellites that orbit the Earth look like. This is how big New Zealand would be if it was in Europe. This is how big the United Kingdom would be if it was in the United States. This map shows the percentage of adults that are living in their birth state currently. Pink, like in Nevada, is the lowest with 0 to 20%. The darkest color, like in all of these states, is 60 to 74% of people. This map shows the amount of snow that's required to close schools in the United States. Every county shown that's green is any snow, while the darkest blue is 2 feet or more of snow. China emits more CO2 than the entire Western Hemisphere. This map shows what foods each US state is known for. I would pause and read this one. This map shows the preferred coffee around the United States. Green is of course Starbucks, pink is Dunkin' Donuts, and Minnesota just loves their caribou. Maps that will change the way you see the world. This map shows how many people have been shot by toddlers in the United States since 2015. Gray states have had 0, and dark red is the highest, like in Georgia, with 8 shootings from toddlers. This map shows the highest elevation in every US county. Counties with the lowest elevation are in purple, and orange shows the highest counties of up to 15,000 feet. This is a map of all the rivers that are in the United States. All of the blue areas in Arizona do not have daylight savings time. All of the yellow areas do have daylight savings time. This map shows the weirdest town names in every US state. This map shows whether countries in Europe use butter more or olive oil more. Olive oil is in green and butter is in yellow. Atlanta is closer to Canada than it is to Miami. This is the population distribution of the United States in units of Canada's total population. These are the most commonly spoken languages in every single neighborhood in New York City. Blue is English, red is Spanish, and green is Russian. These are all the unofficial cultural regions in the United States. I would pause and read this one. Maps that'll change the way you see the world. This map shows which country you are closest to wherever you are in the United States. These are the nearest major US cities based on where you are in the world. This is Pluto in 1994, and this is Pluto in 2019. These are all the locations where Bigfoot has been reported to be seen. This map shows the size comparison between Norway and Texas. These are the hairiest countries in the world. Yellow is the least hairy and black is the most hairy. Everything in the middle of where those red lines are showing are where coconuts grow. 95% of the world's plastic going into the ocean is coming from these rivers. This is the population of the entire world that lives in each Indian state. Half of the world's population lives in that red area. This shows the surface area of the moon compared to the surface area of Earth. Here's an approximation of what the United States would look like if it was on the moon. This is a topographic map of Nevada. These are the most famous celebrities from every US state. Maps that'll change the way you see the world. This map shows how nice people are around the United States, stereotypically. This map shows how much either Barbie or Oppenheimer was trending in each US state this summer. This map shows the sunshine duration in every part of the United States and Europe during the year. Dark blue has the least amount of sunshine with less than 1,200 hours per year, and dark red is the most with over 3,500 hours per year. This is what the House of Representatives would look like if it was apportioned by the amount of cows in each state. This map shows the percentage of people that have light hair in Europe. Light yellow is the highest, with 80% or more of people with light hair. Dark brown regions have less than 20% of people who have light hair. This was the Empire of Japan at its height in 1944. This map shows the gator populations in every US state. Gray means no alligators, and dark green is the most, like Louisiana with over 2 million alligators. This is what the world would look like if Russia and Australia just happened to swap places. These are the most common Google autocomplete results for why is state blank. Maps that will change the way you see the world. This is a map of horn honking culture. Red is where it is common to always honk your horn, and blue is where it is not. This is what the world looks like according to Fish. This map shows how common it is to look up banana enlargement, with dark purple being the most common. Green countries are countries that have not eaten their prime minister. Yellow countries are where they never had a prime minister. And red countries are where they have eaten their prime minister. You can cross the border of France and Belgium 11 times with one straight line. This map shows the actual size of Sweden and Finland. This map shows the size difference between Central Park and the Vatican City. This map shows the size difference between the Vatican City and a blue whale. Due to its unique shape, the center of Croatia is actually not in Croatia. This map shows the distribution of rats around the world. Red regions are where they do live, and blue regions are where they do not live. Countries that Bill Gates is richer than are marked on this map with pictures of Bill Gates smiling. Maps that will change the way you see the world. All the blue countries on this map of Asia recognize same-sex marriage on a national level. The only blue country here is Taiwan. This map shows the average money spent on weddings in the United States. California trumps everyone with $77,000 on average per wedding. This is what the population density of Germany looks like. This map shows by region which NFL team most Americans want to win this year's Super Bowl. This is what the Roman Empire would look like if it was placed on top of modern-day borders. And this shows the Roman Empire at its peak versus the size of the Mongol Empire at its peak. This is what the size of Texas is compared to all of Western Europe. This shows the economic activity in the United States split in half. Part of it being blue and the other part being in orange. This is a railway map of the entirety of the United Kingdom. The red area has a smaller population than the entire United States prison population of 2.1 million people. This is the real size of every country compared to each other. Maps that will change the way you see the world. This shows all the space launches around the world when we first started in the 1950s. And this shows all the space launches that are happening around the world today. Blue circles are successes and red circles are failures. This is a time lapse of the Great Salt Lake in Utah losing water over the last 40 years. This map shows where the next 1,000 babies around the world are going to be born. Asia's going to have 511, which is more than half of the entire world. Africa will have 326. North and South America combined will only have 106. Europe will have 52, and Oceania will only have 5. This is the 1864 U.S. presidential election results by county. The darkest red counties are majority Abraham Lincoln, and the darkest blue counties are majority McClellan, which was his opponent. All of this gray area up here was just territory, and this white area was the Confederacy. This is what the difference looks like between the United States railways and the European railways. All blue countries drive on the right side of the road, and all orange countries drive on the left side of the road. Maps that will change the way you see the world. This shows the number of traffic deaths in Europe per 100,000 cars. Dark blue countries have the least with 0 to 5. The countries shaded in black have over 100 per 100,000 cars. Brown countries have capybaras. Green countries have capybaras in zoos, and the black countries do not have capybaras. This is the number of snow leopards that are across India. This was the size of the Roman Empire at its height versus the modern-day United States. This is what Brooklyn looked like in 1879. These are the top-selling car brands across all of Europe. This map shows all the different allies that the United Kingdom has across the world. These are the max speed limits across the entire world. Can you find the highest? This shows the average ages of Canadians across the entire country. These are the rates of male circumcision in the Middle East. This shows the largest industry in the United States per state. These are the most popular hot sauces across the United States. If the country is green, the most populous city is the capital. If the country is red, the most populous city is not the capital. Maps that will change the way you see the world. Only 6% of China lives on the western half, and the rest of everybody lives in the eastern half. All US states in green do not have boobs on their state flag. Any state in purple does have boobs on their state flag. This map shows the countries in Africa that have gone to space or have not gone to space. This map tells us if LGBTQ people can serve in the military in every country around Europe. This is what the occupation of France looked like in July of 1944. This was the Netherlands in the 1300s, and this is the Netherlands today. This map shows the percentage of how many males are circumcised in every country. Areas in white, like most of South America, are nearly 0% circumcision rate. And the areas in dark pink, like most of Africa, are the areas where it's nearly 100% circumcision rates. These are the homicide rates in Europe by country and the United States by state. Luxembourg and Italy have the lowest across everybody. Louisiana has by far the highest homicide rate across everywhere. Maps that will change the way you see the world. The southern border of the United States is nearly identical to the northern border of Mexico. This map shows how many Super Bowl wins each country has. This map shows the most commonly spoken language by US state other than Spanish. The areas on this map shaded in blue do not have roads. This shows the number of home runs by planet in the solar system since 1950 in the regular season only. This map shows every US state if it was named like West Virginia. This map shows the peak season to wear fall colors across the United States per state. Blue is winter, green is spring, yellow is fall, and red is winter. The United States is bigger than all of these regions combined. Traffic is so bad in London that it could take up to 180 hours to drive from Heathrow Airport to East London. This is a detailed topographic map of Africa. If the human population held hands around the equator, a significant portion of them would drown. Maps that will change the way you see the world. This is what it would look like if all of the Earth's water was put into a sphere. This smaller circle is all of the Earth's fresh water. This map shows the occupancy rates of Airbnbs in the United States on the day of the solar eclipse. The darkest blue is less than 10% occupancy, and the dark orange colors are 100% occupancy. This map shows what percentage of the US state is covered in forests. The most western point in China is closer to Germany than the most eastern point in China. E45 is the longest north-south European route that goes over 5,000 kilometers. These are the US counties where the African American population is more than 25%. Half of the US population lives in the darker shaded areas. This shows the most similar climates to other countries around the world for everywhere in North America. These two maps tell the difference between how much cheaper it is to rent versus buy in the United States in 2020 versus 2023. Maps that will change the way you see the world. This map shows the percentage of access to electricity per country in Africa. This map shows the age of consent by state in the United States. 145 million people live in this little red circle. Half of the GDP from the entire United States comes from these orange blotches. Earth's gravity is stronger in some places than in others. In 1913, Hitler, Freud, Franz, Trotsky, and Stalin all lived in the same area of Vienna. This map shows the year that women were given the right to vote in every country around Europe, with Switzerland being in 1971. This map shows how far away regions in the United States are from a national park, with the yellow being about 200 miles away and the red being about 400 miles away. This is a physical representation of what Iran looks like. This map shows the population density of Australia. Can you guess what city this is just from looking at it from above? Maps that will change the way you see the world. Australia and the United States fit together almost perfectly. This map shows how many cities with over 250,000 people that each state has. Texas and California are the only ones with over 10. A 5-month-old bird flew from Alaska to Tasmania in just 11 days. This is what the elevation looks like across South America. These are the countries that use bidets by default. That's the real location of London, and this is what Tokyo would look like if it was placed next to it. 2% of Australia lives in the yellow areas. This is what China's high-speed railway would look like if it was in the United States. The top map shows how much virgin forest was in the United States in 1620, and the bottom map shows virgin forest today. East Tennessee is closer to Canada than Memphis. This map shows how many metal bands there are per 1 million people in Europe. This map shows how much of the population in Africa has internet access. If you know what group of islands this is, then you're in the 1% of people. Maps that will change the way you see the world. All counties in red show where the median house price is over $350,000. This map gives some perspective on how long Chile is. There's a different perspective of how long Chile is. The top map shows how people described soft drinks in 1947, and the bottom map shows how people say soft drinks today. This is the side of planet Earth that we are not used to seeing. This map shows how many people were unalived in Europe during World War II per country. These are the most common immigrant groups across Japan. This map shows the percentage of people who responded in a survey saying that their country takes in too many migrants. These are the circumcision rates in the United States by state. This is what the climate looks like in Australia compared to different areas around the world. This is a topographic map of what Africa looks like. This shows the Irish population in 1841 versus today. This map just shows what the land and oceans would look like if they were flipped. Maps that will change the way you see the world. This map shows the alcohol death rates across Europe. Belarus has the worst one, followed by Russia and Ukraine. If you wanted to go on a really long train ride, this is the route that you'd be looking for. This is what the peaks look like of the two largest empires in history, with the British Empire being in red and the Mongol Empire being in blue. This map shows the percentages of how safe people will feel walking alone in their home country. This is what the topography map of Vietnam looks like. This is what the topography map of Mexico looks like. And this is what the topography map of Colombia looks like. This map shows all the major railways across the world. This map shows the intensity of censorship levels for the internet around the world. These are the usual dinner eating times across Europe. Spain and Portugal may as well just be eating the next day. If Europeans had to leave their home country, these are the countries that they would move to instead. 2% of the entire world population lives on this island. Maps that will change the way you see the world. The top region highlighted in green is the island of Java in Indonesia, which has a higher population than the region here, Russia. This map shows the last time that European countries were occupied. This map shows all of the known cartel activity in Mexico this year. Brazil's northernmost point is closer to every single country in the Americas than Brazil's southernmost point. This is a 3D map of the Philippines. These are all of the rivers of Italy. These are all of the major waterways of South America. This shows where the most common immigrant comes from in Germany. This is what the Mississippi River looks like with all of its tributaries included. This is what the first world map ever looked like around 600 BC. This is the topography of Poland. And this is the topography of the United States. This shows all of the animals around the world and where they primarily came from. Maps that will change the way you see the world. These two maps show the vast difference in support for same-sex marriage between the year 1970 and today. This is what North America looked like about 77 million years ago. This shows how censored the internet is for every country in the world. It takes about the same amount of time to drive through all of Florida as it does for all of Texas. This is a map of where every North American NHL player was born. This is what the Pakistan Travel Advisory map looks like currently. This was the world map according to China in the late 1700s. This is a topography map of India. This is what the world looks like according to Google Street View. This map shows the ancestral backgrounds of United States presidents. Red dots on these maps show the birthplaces of the top 100 fastest 10,000 meter runners of all time. Only 1 in 10 people know what country this is based on the shape, and without looking at the comments, do you know what country it is?